Good evening. Welcome, everybody. I was asked to introduce Mr. Mike McPherson. I've known Mike for a long time, since we were very young at Radnor. We started out at Radnor.
You were 20 years old when I was born, I remember.
So you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, you got your mic, but
Oh, go ahead, Gerald, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, thank you. He's been preaching and teaching the Bible in Ezel, I think it was Ezel, David Lipscomb, and what's the last one you're at now?
Nashville Christian.
Nashville Christian, for over 100 years. And
Seems like it.
But no, Mike is a dear friend of all of us and Pam, and we love him very much. And he has probably taught some of your kids, if you know Mike, and just a wonderful man. He's dedicated to spreading the gospel his whole life, and looking forward to this series that he's going to be with us the next 4 Sunday nights. And I think he's going to give us a look that we haven't seen of the Holy Lands before. And we're looking forward to it, Mike, and thank you for doing this, buddy.
Thanks. Well, at my age, I'm always honored to be asked to come anywhere because I know it's winding down. I'm also looking forward to the fellowship meal we're having afterwards in my honor, and that means a lot. So, Derek, could you bring that back up just to I need it back right there. That's good. Can't see up here. So, you have a guest speaker and don't have fellowship meal. So we're going somewhere to go eat afterwards. Is that right? So we'll get reservations for everybody, and Gerald and Gary are covering that, and that means a lot. And I wished I had a presentation monitor in front of me so I wouldn't have to keep turning around all the time, although I am very attractive from the back side. And so I apologize for that, but I've just got to kind of keep turning to make sure it's on the right slide. But I hope this won't be boring. If it is, then we'll change direction and do something different next week. I think actually I'm not going to change direction. I've got to go with what I've planned. But I got to go to Egypt, been there a couple times, and got to go there this past winter, and then to Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel. I actually went to Israel in the summer, and so did Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and somewhere else. I forgot what the other one was, but will be the Sinai area, and so it's going to be I think some pretty neat stuff. Geography and archaeology does not prove the Bible. We can't, we can't prove God's true. A lot of times speakers get up and go, "I'm going to prove God is true." Well, you can't. The atheist can't prove He's not true, but we can't reproduce creation in a lab. All we can do is give the evidence that it's there. I have no doubts that there's a God. I have no doubts that geography is accurate in the Bible, but that doesn't prove it. What I'm going to do is give confirmation of it, and hopefully also some things that maybe you didn't know that we don't cover in a normal class or sermon. Maybe will come to life a little bit. And I lost my wife 4 years ago, and she would, whenever she went with me when I was speaking, she said, "Mike, you're always in a hurry. You're trying to get through so much." So I'm going to really relax and slow down and not try to cover a million things, and we'll see how far we get. And I do not like going long. I know sometimes speakers, they act like they enjoy tormenting the class with longevity. We're just going to keep going. I'm hungry. I'm not trying to stay here a long time. So I don't like going over. If there's a bell, I'll stop right then. I'll just drop the mic right then. So what time do we stop normally?
Ding, ding.
What time will that be?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Well, I don't want to go that long. Y'all can't take that, I don't believe. But anyway, here we go. Egypt, we'll start there, and then later we're going to go into Saudi Arabia and take you to where I believe the actual Mount Sinai is, and we might get close to it tonight. We'll see. And this is just this past winter, This is in the middle of December when it was real cold over here. It was perfect over there. It was just enough cool for a long sleeve shirt, and we had fantastic weather constantly. And what's kind of neat, if you'll look in the background, you see the city, the pyramids that you've seen on postcards and all, like that. It's back there behind. If you turn around, where I'm facing, it's just desert. It's kind of bizarre. You can literally put one foot in desert and one foot in green. It's really unique, and that's kind of cool there. This was in 2000, so yeah, there's not a lot of change. The waistline, oh, for that day right there. Okay. That's when I had a life back then. I had a life back then. So Egypt, that's the real green part there, and what's unique about the Nile River and the way it flows? Anybody? Y'all didn't know we'd have a lot of Q&A here, but anybody know? Some students know. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, very good. Excellent. What grade are you in? 6th grade. That's good. I would not have known that in the 6th grade. I lived in Antioch. I was impressed with slinkies going down steps. You know that. Wow, look, Mama. So very good. It's good to see educated children. That's nice. Now, where we're going to go on our trip is over here. I believe they crossed the Red Sea right there and came over here in Mount Sinai. It's here. In the coming weeks, I'm going to show you a split boulder out there that we think is the one that Moses struck and the water came out. And if you're going, how do you know that? Does Moses have his initials in the rock somewhere? When I give the background to what the text says and then we take a look at this site, I might convince you. But everybody almost thinks it's right here, and we'll explain why, and that they crossed the Red Sea up there. We believe they wound all down through here, parked right there, and were trapped. And if we don't get to that's okay tonight. We will get to it. So the Israelites, I really don't have time, but right up here, there's an encampment that's recently been uncovered that they can tell it was Semitic people. Now, what that means is people of Jewish or Arab descent, and there's just the way the burials were done, the things that they have found, and so if that's accurate, that could be where the Israelites had their condominiums and apartments, was right up in here. And again, maybe we can do some more stuff on that. We'll see where we get to. The Nile River looks so good on the postcard. It is filthy in the downtown area. It's so nasty. The whole city of Cairo. When you get out in the country, it's like this, but in downtown Cairo, the poverty is unbelievable. If we were talking about missions and helping the hungry, I'd show all that, but let's just kind of keep it on the Bible stuff. This is at the Egyptian Museum, and I just want to show a little bit of the grandeur of Egypt. I would like to spend the entire hour tonight, 35 minutes tonight, on just the grandeur of Egypt and how wonderful it was from an archaeological standpoint, from an economic standpoint. Now, they're pagan to the core, but they still got a lot of cool stuff about them. The Egyptians were pagan as you could get, but it's still a cool place to visit, and they got a lot of neat things. But I put my finger in the photo so you could see the incredible detail of these little bitty images. I don't know how they made them. The features, they're smaller than our little army men that we played with. It's incredible, and you can see some of the detail there. Everybody does that when they go there. That's not funny anymore. So here we come in.
Tallest one. My friend, yours.
I'm going down low. There they are. They're so exotic looking. And okay, there you see the line there. This crowded city in the background there, and then desert in the foreground. And so whenever you see postcards, the photos are taken from the other side, so you don't see all that. That kind of messes up that ancient look. Look at the size of this. We don't know how they made them. We don't know how they made them. I don't think we can make them today. Some people think we've got the cranes and all, but the way they engineered it, it's so incredible.
The base of the Great Giza Pyramid, 400.
Excuse me, let's see if it, for some reason, there we go. Okay, that one did not work for some reason. There we go. I guess that was the same one, wasn't it?
We're at the base of the Great Giza Pyramid, 454 feet tall.
Okay. I guess that video clip got trapped there, but made out of 2.3 million limestones, but it was designed so that if there was an earthquake, it would catch itself. And it's not hollow, it's full of the millions of limestone blocks, except for some tunnels to get to the king and queen's chambers. This was all done for just one couple. So fellas, this is dedication to your bride, that you have this built for you and her to be buried in, and that's it. It's just unbelievable. Nobody else gets to go to be buried there, and it's taller than a football field is long. So there's a lot of illustrations on how they may have made them. We don't know. Dragging blocks. Now this does show a little. This is an actual relief over there. So we know they sometimes put big blocks on sleds and had people pull them, and those guys got to take a free ride there while the guys are pulling that thing. And everybody thinks that it was done by the slaves, and it may have been. And it may have been, some of them may have been built by the Israelites. We don't know. There's about 110 pyramids over there. Those three that you saw at Giza were the biggest. And there's another guy getting to ride on the sled. And so it's just fantastic when you get up to it. Now, they would have been covered in a nice flat limestone painted white, and with a crown at the top that was made of gold. So what you're looking at is erosion. So some travelers said that when they came over the horizon and the sun hit them, they looked like snow mountains. So they're spectacular as ruins. What they have been like to see them fresh. So now I went back in 2000. They wouldn't let us go in once. So I've been waiting 22 years to finally go in. They let you go up one tunnel, and I don't know who that lady is in the back. She just got in my picture. But I'm at the entrance of the part, and they only let you go up about 200 feet, and I got claustrophobic, and I started sweating because I felt so, like it's trapped around me, and I thought, that earthquake will happen today when I get up there. And I just kept thinking about that, and I got paranoid because I can't stand the tight places, and I kept going, you're going to regret you don't go all the way to the top. You know that, don't you? And I tried. And so this is all that you can get through is these tunnels, and of course most of those are not available for us. How they slid all these blocks up through these tunnels inside, we just do not know how they made them.
Inside the Great Pyramid.
So that's it, and I'm going to try to go up a little way.
Get an idea how long you have to squat to go up. It is rough.
My eyes are just, I can't do this anymore, so I stopped right there. That was it. So I got about 12 feet up in there, and then that lady that would come out, she goes, it's really hot up there. And I went, okay. That didn't help any when she said that. That really helped a lot. But it was incredible. Now, the pharaohs really liked themselves a lot. So I want you to look at this technology that we have taken and imagine what these looked like when they were originally made, okay? And the carvings there, and look at the close-up of the face. Now, I think our guys did a good job on Mount Rushmore. These are only about 80 years old, and look how rough they are. These are over 3,000 years old. And out in that wind hitting them, and they would have been magnificent in their day. And the faces, they've measured them, and they're perfectly symmetrical. Like if you could, use a computer and lay the other side over, it matches perfectly, and we don't know how they did it. Do not know how they did it. Our presidents they did a great job on them, but they're not perfectly symmetrical on each side. They had arena football in that day, and that was pretty cool. Is that where it blacks out and I panic? Okay, good. Okay, there you go. We're still good. Now there's the Sphinx I went to in 2000 when I had hair and could wear XL instead of several other X's added on. This is the more recent one, and we don't know what those were. They could have been for a god. They could have been for a god king. It was the body of a lion, a big cat, and then the head of the king or god. We're really not sure what they were for. Now here's our First Life application, and I want to, as we go through this, not just be bare geography, archaeology, and history. I'd like to have some application of that also. Now, an artist that did this is Jesus and Mary, and I guess Joseph's somewhere there. That didn't actually happen, we don't think. We don't think Joseph and Mary and Jesus, when he was little, went up into the arms of the Sphinx. But what's representing is pretty cool. And anybody that does know a little bit background of the story, what's Jesus and the family doing in Egypt? Yeah, they fled down there to get away from Herod. And the artist here is depicting Egypt as taking care of the Savior. This pagan nation is caring for, is protecting Jesus while he's down there. And of course, earlier, Israelites came out of Egypt. Of course, they weren't being protected exactly, but it's neat to show how God uses even pagan nations for his purposes, and he's tying everything together, and everything's in his control. And we get very frustrated at the condition of America right now. And when my dad, in his last years, how many of you knew my dad, Joe McPherson? I know several of you in here. Maybe it's just my friends that know him, but I thought he was more famous than that, since we were all from Antioch, But Dad, when he was retired, and some of you are guilty of this, you have a lot of time to watch Fox News. You have too much time to watch Fox News. And so Dad is, every time I come visit Mike, this place, it's getting bad. And one day he said, you got to do something. Well, that's a lot of pressure on me to save America there, Dad. Well, I've actually got a game. I got a coach in a minute. I don't know if I have time to save America right this week. But he would get because he loved this country so much, and he loves the Lord so much, and like all of us, we hate sin, all this. But and I want to encourage also you old people like me, please don't get up and tell our young people, boy, I'd hate to raise kids today. Oh, that makes them feel real good. Because this is the only day they have. They were put at this time in history as you were when we were back in the, as I look at 30s, 40s, 50s, for me 50s and 60s. We were put in that situation at that time. And God's got all this in his hand. And that doesn't mean we're not going to get discouraged, but just keep that in mind. And that's kind of our life lesson here. So we'll keep moving. Embalming, we could spend a lot of time on that. And you know how they had to get all of the fluids, the liquidy stuff out of you. So, they cut you open and take some of the body parts out and stuff it with salt and dry leaves to give it a little bit of form. After they get everything out of there, they got to dry everything up so it'll last longer. And remember how they took the brain out? Everybody, that's the gross part. Everybody remembers that, right? You don't know this? Okay, you'll like this, Pam. They took this little rod that had a hook on it, and they went up through the nose. Now, he was dead at this point. Keep that in mind. And then they grabbed the brain and pulled it out the nose here. But it really opens you up, sinuses. It really does. You feel like you can breathe so much better. So this was a scarab beetle they put here on the chest. When I was at Easel Harding, we played St. Cecilia. They were in our district. This is their mascot, the St. Cecilia scarab beetles. In their committee room, I don't know who said, let's go with an insect. You know, that the Tennessee ticks and the Minnesota mosquitoes, I don't know why they did that, but those things are sacred. The sacred beetle, it's sacred to them, and they make these monuments to them. This is at a museum. That took a lot of time and money to make that out of granite, and all of us in here together couldn't budget an inch, and they put a lot of time and effort into that. And you see me in the Tennessee gear, I like to blend into the culture of the place that I'm at where they can't tell where I'm from. So I'm big on that. So I always do that. A lot of people would tell me when you travel around the world, don't wear USA stuff. Don't wear stuff where you're from and all. And I said, you know, I'm going to. I'm going to wear my school stuff, Tennessee Vols, USA. I'm just going to do that. When you travel, if you don't want to do that, that's okay. I've just decided not to live that way. If I have to, take some terrorists out, I will if I have to. They also mummified cats, and if you don't like cats, you think that might be a good thing to start today, even while they're alive, but I don't feel that way. They thought cats were sacred. A lot of stuff was sacred to them. All right, here's our boy King Tut. We'll talk about him a little bit. Now, in these vaults, I put myself in the picture not because I want to be a model, for Tut's tombs and sarcophaguses, just to give you an idea of the size, the money this would have cost, the work hours that this would have taken, and this is all about their religion that's pagan to the core, but they're so dedicated. That's the one over that we saw this past year at the Egyptian Museum, and just fantastic. How many millions would that be today? And what's incredible, of course, when they found this stuff in Tut's tomb, of course, it was dusty and dirty and corroded, and they had to clean it up. But once it's cleaned up, it looks like it was just made. It's really neat. Now, here's what's the mind blower. They mummified the pharaohs. Big process, 70 days it took that. Bulls were also sacred. This is a mummified bull, and they have found a bunch of them. And the god Apis is worshipped, and there's the sun disk in the middle of the horns there. And when we get to the golden calf altar site, I want you to think about something. In the Hebrew, it may not have been calf. It may have just been the golden cow, the golden bull. We've always pictured, they were worshiping a little calf. And Israel was familiar with that, weren't they? That was the worship they saw all around them, and that's what they wanted to make. And so the cow or the bull is so popular with them. Now, those are not the real eyes. They painted those on after they mummified them. These are the vaults they put them in. So we're going to take you under the ground where these things are. And this, I had been wanting to see this. This was a surprise part of my trip that I did not know I was going to get to do to the last second. And here we go. And I thought I had video. Here we go. I'm really hoping that'll play. Is there any way we can click the play button on that? I don't know why that's not playing. Yeah, there we go. Can we hit that? And it's still not working, is it? Let me back up and see if it'll click in. Well, I really wanted y'all to see this. Well, Anyway, I guess I'll just have to try to describe it here, and we'll go back and do that. In this entombment area, we went under the ground. There were 25 of those. In Memphis, Egypt, they found 64, all with mummified bulls in them. We can't budge that. And that's the lid, the tonnage there. Now here's the next life lesson I wanted to talk about with all this stuff. What if we were that dedicated to our religion? Now they're pagan. They're wrong. They're not even on the radar of truth. But they were dedicated. Think about Pharaoh. He was hard-headed, wasn't he? But he loved his country, and he loved his religion, and he fought till the end. Now, that doesn't give him any okay or excuse, okay? But talk about dedication. What if we were like that? What if we were more than just sitting in pews? What if we had that kind of dedication? That's the thing that I got the most out of this trip. I love seeing all the Egyptian stuff. I think it's very cool and neat. And I know it's pagan. But man, what if we were seeking first the kingdom of God the way they're seeking first their stuff, their religion, their dedication? So, all right, let's talk about our boy Tut here for a second. This is the only tomb that has not been looted. And we'll show you a few of the things that are in there. Now, I'd like to make a brief case about, is it possible, some scholars that are very conservative and kind of in our camp believe that there's a possibility that Pharaoh's firstborn was King Tut. He was 19, somewhere in there when he died. Wouldn't that be incredible if the mummy of that boy king was the Pharaoh's son? And let me show you some things that might lean toward that as a possibility. So in 1922, his tomb was uncovered by a guy named Howard Carter, and Howard Carter was Indiana Jones. This is the greatest tomb discovery. All the others have been looted and they've destroyed or sold. So they would find mummies and crush them up and sell them on the black market, and crush them up and put them in ointments and say it had healing power, and all the treasures were sold on the black market. Fortunately, King Tut's wasn't, and it's the only one that they've ever found. And it was in basically 3 chambers. And Howard Carter came in, he came down these steps, and he was right there, and that was the door with the rope around it. This is just like an Indiana Jones story. And he knocks a hole after he opens that up, and there's a wall there, and he knocks a hole in it, and they did this test to make sure there was no poisonous gas in there, and then somehow he had enough room to put some type of lantern in there. The guy that sponsored him is a guy from England also, and he just sees Carter going, and he says, "What do you see?" And he said, "Things, beautiful things." That's all he could say. And the treasures in there were just unbelievable. And they were thrown together. Nothing was set up. The possible theory is the country was in chaos during the 10 plagues. And now the 10th plague of the firstborn, everybody's going nuts. And so now the boy king, the future Pharaoh, is dead. And they prepared it for him. And it was all done in a rush. Now, we don't know this for sure, but he was not even properly mummified, totally. It was a rush job. That doesn't prove he's the boy king of Exodus. It just kind of gives you, kind of teases your imagination, doesn't it, to think about, is that a possibility? See, this is a reproduction of exactly how they found it. It was just thrown in there, nothing set up. And he's got to use those chariots in the afterlife. That's why they get thrown in there. They put images of servants in there. They're going to come to life later when he goes over. And he's going to need all that stuff. And of course, they've cleaned it up. Now, that's how they would find that mask. Then there's the cleanup job. Well, they can restore, can't they? So, this is the result of over 3,000 years. And then this is how good they got it so we can enjoy it in museums. If touch stuff ever does come close by, it has before. It comes through every so often. It'd be worth your time to go to it. Now, this is him. He really needed some Jergens lotion. Skin was drying out real badly, so he needed a moisturizer badly. And a little top heavy there on the head with that neck there. They did forensic analysis of the skull. This is how they can kind of replicate how a person might look from the skull. This is how they think he might have looked. And everything was just all thrown in there. And you can see he was not as well preserved as a lot of others. I've seen some others that were much better than that. And looking at when we went to a museum that had several pharaohs there that were mummified, and it's weird staring at dead people's bodies like that. But it's fascinating because I know they didn't know they would be in a museum one day, But it's incredible, even though that's rough looking. We're not going to look that good in 3,000 years. So he really looks pretty good considering the time, because we're going to be nothing but dust. So he's still a little bit preserved there. There's our boy there from the movie. And Yul Brynner, nobody can play it better than him. And of course, he plays the hard-headed Pharaoh to the nth degree. I think did an outstanding job in portraying that. I can't ever watch another movie about the Exodus because none of them are as cool. Can act quite the way he could. So the Israelites are released again. We just don't have time to do the Passover and all that, but they're getting out of Dodge here and taking off, and what that would have been like. And this is kind of a metaphor or a symbol or a parable or whatever. It's an illustration, a foreshadowing, a shadow of us being free in Christ. And this is one reason the African American community, because of the slave days, Moses is such a big deal because they identify with that. To them, salvation is spiritual, and it's also here also. And that's why you've got a lot of great hymns from their community back in the 1800s about Moses. And that's just something they've always been able to identify with. So the text says we got to go get them. And, of course, this is from the movie. I'd love to have been in that movie. Ride one of those chariots out. And here they go. 600 of them took out. And that's where they're headed. Okay? So all they need to do is sweep and go this way. But God directed them to come this way because they weren't ready to go up there yet. And so it should have been a quick trip. But they are going to go, I believe, to right here. And everybody else thinks it's there. We think Mount Sinai was over here on this side here. Here's the only reason people put it right here. This is Constantine. He was the emperor in Rome in the 4th century. And he had a mama named Helena. And she loved to travel to Bible lands and have visions and say, this is it. And the one thing about, who has been to Israel? Somebody told me earlier they had been to Israel. Okay, just one, okay. The one aggravating thing about Israel is they put up a church building or a cathedral wherever they think something big happened, and it just gets in the way. Oh, Jesus sneezed there. And so they put up a building. And they've got, where they say, okay, John the Baptist, this is his bones here, and we've got him in this cathedral. And there were some people on tour. This wasn't in Israel. It was somewhere else where supposedly John the Baptist's bones had been preserved. And so they went to this one cathedral and they saw John the Baptist's bones. And then later in the tour, they went to another one. They said, well, this is John the Baptist's one. They said, wait, hold it. I thought we saw that in the other one. And the tour leader said, oh, that's when he was young. That was probably a joke. It's a real bad one. I hope the tour leader wasn't that stupid. I don't know. Now, when we were in England, before my wife passed away, we had some good friends we met on our ALS journey, and they invited us to come over to England and stay with them. And we were going to York Minster to visit this incredible cathedral you see in the background. And I walked past him and I went, that's the statue. I've been looking at that statue for decades, and so I know you're not exactly as excited as I was to see it, but that's okay. So now this is the traditional site, and there's a monastery there called St. Catherine's. It's really cool, but I don't think this is it. This is the monastery. It's the old Immaculate Monastery going way back to about 1,300 years ago. And we got to go inside it. And even though I don't think this is the right location, I don't think that's Mount Sinai in the back, but inside they think that's the burning bush. And that's the other thing you get over there a lot. That's the burning bush. It apparently stayed really preserved. There's the supposed Mount Sinai, and that's where everybody and their brother and their dog, they say that's it, and people will climb up that and talk about this experience that they had. And I understand that because the one I think is over on the other side of the Red Sea. I felt that mystical feeling also. So all that's up here, it's not fact, because I don't know if I was standing on the right one or not. I don't think this is the right one, but it's still a great traditional site. And that, what are those called? Those throws over you, what are those called? Afghan, yeah. We were getting ready to go. It was a really cold day that day. And the vendors over there drive you crazy. And one's coming over to me and said, I don't have any more money. I don't have any more money. They think all Americans are rich. And I would tell them, I'm a teacher. You don't understand. I don't make the money you think I do. You always think I'm a millionaire. And they won't let up. And one of them just put it over me. And I didn't have a lot of heavy clothing. And I went, man, this is warm. Okay. And so I bought 3 of them. They were great. But that's the monastery there. And there's the supposed the bush there. And I don't think that's it. But I wanted to get a picture of it. Now, one thing that is cool about inside there that I had forgotten was in there, and this may not mean anything to you, this is the oldest complete New Testament in Greek. Okay? It's called the Codex Sinaiticus. And it is the oldest complete New Testament we have, and it's real small. But it was so cool when I saw it in the museum, and they wouldn't let us take pictures. These are just from a professional website. But that was kind of neat seeing that. So that's the traditional place, and that's where we think it is. So we're going to go to that beach there, and we believe the Israelites, they came from way up here, and as they get down in here, they're winding through a canyon system that's going to empty out onto this beach where they're going to be trapped, and that's it. And it is, it's got a whole lot more business and commercialism on it right now than it looks like. But as you see, if this is the location, they came down through a canyon system, and there's no place to go. This would make sense. That the other location doesn't really have a place to get trapped at all. When you look at the other locations, there's 3 or 4 other popular ones. There's no place to get trapped. And this one has that. And that's why I think this is possible. And plus, what we see when we cross over and go over into here to what I think is the real Mount Sinai, and that split boulder, when you tie it all together, I think this is the one. Okay? And I'm hoping some of these will work. Okay, I didn't get to go down this road. This is the canyon system we think they rode down through, and there's a road that's paved now. We got to be at the end of it. Like, you're coming out, the beach is right through that, right up there. And they would not let us go back down that. And this is the beach as it empties out. They had some government project. I wanted to ride so badly down through the canyon in reverse, going from the beach back in to the canyon, but they would not let us.
Now on the far left of the beach, as you look in from the water, we think they came here and were hemmed in by the mountains, you see. There's no way to get across, and it's somewhere in here. across to the other side. There's a couple of bodies over there.
They ended up going over there somewhere, and I'm sorry about the wind. It was really, really high that day. Now, this is what is mentioned in Josephus' writings. He's a guy that lived right after Christ, and he wrote a lot of history. He said, they also seized on the passage by which they imagined the Hebrews might fly, shutting them up between inaccessible precipices and the sea. Inaccessible precipices. Okay? This is Josephus, and if we lay him beside this, it looks kind of convincing to me. For there was a ridge of mountains that terminated at the sea, which were impassable. Now, he didn't live at that time, okay? This is 1,500 years earlier, but he's gotten records, apparently, that he's kept, or through word of mouth it's passed down, and here's what he wrote about right after Christ died. He was a generation after Christ. Which were impassable by reason of their roughness and obstructed their flight. And that's the beach that if they came down through here and emptied out right there. So, I hope. Okay, here we go. We got to stay in a hotel on that beach. It's got a lot more business and industry right now. A lot of that's covered up, but it is gigantic and would have had plenty of room to hold all the thousands of people. And remember, they're animals too. It had to take a lot. There were more animals than people. Now, this pillar was taken away by the Saudis, and it may have been in reference to that verse right there. In Isaiah, now Isaiah's writing way later, okay? In that day there will be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt and a pillar to the Lord at its border. But an associate of mine that I know that did a lot of archaeological work over there and saw this column laying in half in the water, and they tried to transcribe some of it, and he got the words like Pharaoh, death, and midnight, and some other things that sound like they may have related it to, and it's that one's missing, but this one, no, that is the same one. I'm sorry. There's the one on the other side is gone. They took it. I'm sorry, I got that mixed up. So this is the one on that side that they did prop up, and of course it's been worn away. And so it makes you wonder, is this what he was referring to? So let's turn that down a little bit if we can. So here they go. Give me a little bit.
Better to serve the Egyptians than to die here.
And the sea covered them.
And the biggest mass baptism in history. Now, I'm going to give a little teaser here because we're going to stop 9 minutes before 6 because Gerald and Gary are paying for my supper, and I want to do a little tease here for a second because my archaeological friend went off the beach into the water looking to see if there would be chariot parts. And I know that sounds so Indiana Jones-ish, but next week, don't miss. If you miss next week, you'll only regret it for once, and that's the rest of your life. So I think there's some cool stuff that we're going to show you next week, and I hope this hadn't been too boring. Okay, I like this stuff. I'm a Bible nerd, and so we'll cover some other things next week, but we're going to pick up right there because we're going to take you under and show you what they found when they were doing some diving for the parts. It's pretty cool stuff. So appreciate y'all inviting me out here, and hope you'll be around for our next 3 weeks. Derek.